In August 1947, India and Pakistan emerged as two independent nations as a result of the partition of British India. Despite their shared history spanning centuries, their relations have unfortunately been impacted by wars and political conflicts since partition. Over 7 decades have passed since their independence, and it is worth analyzing whether the two nations, which started with similar historical and socio-economic conditions, have performed similarly or not. Has India economically outpaced Pakistan, or has Pakistan shown better progress? As 77 years have now gone by, it's a good time to compare the economic progress of the two nations based on various indicators. Before diving into the comparison, we'd like to request you to subscribe to our channel. Analytics show that more than half of our viewers watch our videos but do not subscribe. Your subscription will motivate us to bring more content like this. Thank you. Now let's analyze the economic performance of India and Pakistan using GDP as a key metric. GDP, or gross domestic product, measures the total monetary value of goods and services produced within a country in a year. In 2023, India's total GDP stood at $3.57 trillion, which is $3,570 billion, whereas Pakistan's GDP was $338 billion. India's GDP is over 10 times larger than Pakistan's. This difference is understandable as India is a much larger country in terms of both geography and population. To understand this disparity better, let's look at GDP growth rates. Historically, Pakistan's economy often outperformed India's in terms of GDP growth, especially until the early 1990s. From 1983 to 1992, Pakistan's average GDP growth rate was 6.14% annually, while India's was only 5.28%. However, things have changed significantly since then. Between 2014 and 2023, India's economy grew at an average rate of 5.94% per year, whereas Pakistan's growth rate during the same period slowed to just 3.8%. When we look at GDP per capita, which reflects the average income of a citizen, Pakistan was historically ahead or on par with India. However, in 2023, India's GDP per capita was $2,485, almost 1.76 times higher than Pakistan's, which stood at $1,417. A similar trend can be seen in exports. In 1992, Pakistan's total exports were valued at $8.4 billion, while India's were $25.49 billion, roughly 3 times higher. By 2023, Pakistan's exports had increased to $35 billion, a four-fold rise, while India's exports had skyrocketed to $777 billion, a 30-fold increase. India's export value in 2023 was 22 times that of Pakistan's, compared to just 3 times in 1992. This significant difference highlights India's rapid progress, particularly in sectors like IT. For instance, India's IT exports in 2023 were valued at $194 billion, while Pakistan's were only $3.2 billion, nearly 60 times smaller. When we consider economic inequality, the gap between the rich and poor has widened in both nations over the years. In 1995, the wealthiest 1% in Pakistan owned 21.7% of the country's wealth, which increased to 26.1% in 2022. In India, the richest 1% owned 23.2% of wealth in 1995, and by 2022, this figure had grown to 33.1%. Both countries face challenges with wealth concentration, though India's wealth inequality has grown faster than Pakistan's. Foreign exchange reserves also show a stark contrast. In 2000, Pakistan's reserves were $3.23 billion, and by 2024, they had increased fivefold to $16.6 billion. In comparison, India's reserves grew from $39.8 billion in 2000 to $644 billion in 2024, a 16-fold increase. Lastly, the external debt of both nations has also grown. Between 2000 and 2024, Pakistan's external debt increased from $33.4 billion to $133 billion, a four-fold rise. During the same period, India's external debt rose from $102 billion to $682 billion, a seven-fold increase. However, India's debt to GDP ratio remained more stable, rising from 17.5% in 2000 to 23.3% in 2023, while Pakistan's ratio increased significantly from 62% to 77.9%. These economic indicators reveal that while both nations face challenges, India has shown significantly better performance across various metrics over the past few decades. If you'd like us to compare India and Pakistan in other fields, such as education, defense, or healthcare, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for updates on our future videos.